Welcome to another episode of The Echo with your host Apollo PN,
Kadiatu,
and Jeffrey.
And we are here with a very special guest. Please introduce yourself, man.
Hello, my name is Guled Arale, and thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. And you're a member of the NDP
Yes,
party.
I work for the Ontario NDP, and I was a candidate in Scarborough Southwest in the recent federal election that just wrapped up.
And
how was it?
Yeah.
Oh, how was it? I've been involved with the NDP for like a while, like over a decade, and I've done like every other part of a campaign. And this is my first time of being a candidate, so it was a bit weird seeing my face everywhere, but it was really good. Like I had a lot of amazing conversations at the door, got to really connect with my community, and that was a very fulfilling experience, I would say.
So what drove you to actually run in the campaign? What was the one thing that you wanted to accomplish?
Okay, so here's the funny thing. I hate politics, even though I'm in politics. But the thing is, for me, is I always kind of wanted to use my life to try to make things better for people, and create long-lasting systemic change. And I hate politics, but I think it's one of the best ways to actually kind of create change in our society. And I'm just in it to beat them at their own game.
I rate it. So wait, what ends are you from again?
Scarborough.
Shout out to Scarborough.
East End.
Yo, best side of the city,
Okay, let's not get into it.
Okay.
Okay.
I respect it that he's standing on it, but that's cap though. I respect it.
I wouldn't say all of that.
All right, yo, all I'm trying to say, if you want the best food in the city, you just gotta come to the East, man.
No, that's the cap.
Y'all got some good East African food places though. I'm not gonna lie.
Shout out to Sahans.
He's in the East.
I just took that in.
All right. I'm glad to have you here. Hoping to tap into, get more of you to our viewers and everything.
All right.
Glad to know that you're part of politics. You don't like politics, but you're trying to beat them at their own game.
Exactly.
And we got some bunch of topics. Get to know more about you and your ideas and your ideology and stuff like that.
All right, let's get it.
Have that conversation.
Let's get it.
Yeah, let's go. All right, so we like to start off our podcast with talking about some music. Are you into music and everything?
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, so Thug, aka I call him Sex, he dropped a
That's his name.
Yeah, he changed
his name. I didn't know that.
I changed his name. I call him Sex. So,
Yeah.
he dropped a new album this Friday called Punk. Have you got a chance to listen to it?
Yo, I gave it one listen. I usually listen to albums a few times before really forming my opinion, but I only had time to only hear it once.
Yeah.
Yo, bro, it's amazing. I think it's definitely one of the best albums of the year so far. But I still gotta take it in a bit more.
Yeah.
And I really like how he's doing something different in hip hop, for sure.
Yeah. It's one of I like Thug a lot. I feel like this album, our first listen, one of his better projects that he's put out. And on top of that, it's have you listened to, I call this Thug's best song, but it's Killed Before. I feel like he just captured the essence of Killed Before and just put that in a project, and it's I fuck with it all the way top to bottom.
Yeah, and I kind of like how he kind of combined hip hop and rock.
Yeah.
Yes, experimental, and it was kind of a chiller vibe.
That's why I liked it.
Yeah.
Instead of that typical trap energy.
Yeah. No, I was here for it. Even the features were good. I know Doja Cat was on there. He got Gunna.
J. Cole.
J. Cole was on
Drake, Travis Scott.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed by that Drake feature. It was a little. He kind of killed the mood of the song because
it was Drake being Drake.
It was he had a.
It sounds like you're a hater.
No. I'm no, but I'm it's the way he's saying
Do you hate the boy?
Drake. With Jeff around, never. No.
I just thought the song's bubbly, and I thought that Travis killed his verse and with that beat and whatnot. But then the switch up, because it was a short song already, and then they had that beat switch up, which is I guess what Drake and Travis Scott does all the time with their songs. But I thought the feature was kind of lazy. He kind of phoned it in. But
You think so?
Which is kind of funny because the features has kind of been one of the best things that Drake's have done this year. He's been killing it on features this year, and this probably wasn't one of his best ones that came out this year, that's for sure. But I still like the song.
And speaking of features, there was also, you mentioned Doja Cat as one of the features. I think I saw Post Malone. You mentioned J. Cole as well.
Mac Miller was on
Mac
there.
Miller. Juice WRLD was there.
Juice WRLD,
Yeah.
By the way, how many verses does Juice WRLD have in his, you know what I mean? It seems like he's still getting, artists are putting out verses from him, you know?
Yeah, I think when he was alive, he recorded a lot of music. And the thing about Juice WRLD, I don't think he wrote. So a lot of the stuff he would just kind of do off of freestyle and then kind of just put things together. So he does have a lot of music too.
It's like a Juice WRLD vault, I guess. aggressive.
I guess so. I guess his label's not gonna run him dry the same way how Victor run Pop Smoke versus Dry.
Yeah, that was bad.
No diss to Victor though.
Well, and speaking of like I guess like big news in like culture, I guess we could also talk about the trending Squid Games.
Yeah.
Which I guess have you guys all watched it?
10 out of 10. That's all I'm gonna say.
I was telling these people, like, I was watching it before it was cool. Like, you know, I was on it day one on Netflix, and then everyone started talking about it. It's like, yo, like, I can't even talk about it yet because you haven't watched it. You know, I'm not trying to spoil it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were saying it's one of the most, or actually the most successful Netflix launch ever. Yeah. So that's a big shout out to the South Korean movie market, especially since I feel like a lot of Western movies or TV shows are running out of ideas. There's a lot of remakes.
It's the same thing.
Same thing. And I guess that's what made that show super appealing to a lot of people. And now hopefully it's a gateway for more opportunities for the South Korean market.
So question, folks, did you watch it with subtitles or no subtitles?
I watch anime, so it's subtitles for me all day.
Subtitles.
No subtitles.
Oh, you watched it?
I watched it.
It's
terrible.
And it's only because I also watch anime, but I watch anime dubbed too. Don't come for me. Don't come for me. I'm sorry.
She's not a real one.
I'm sorry.
The thing is, the dub does not work with the actual show because the English translations do not make sense. And
I know.
even the tone. Like
no, you're right.
Like the Korean language, they use a lot of different exaggerations and emphasis on different words, and the English translation makes them sound so annoying. I was watching a bit of it. I'm like, wow, it does not.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is.
They ruined it.
You're ruining it.
Ruined it. But why do you think there was that show in particular was so like successful? Like what about it? Like elements about it that makes it just go like wow.
So I think two things. I think one, it's the very episodic nature of it. Like I think you always wanted to see what the next game was, and like it took something very simple like basic childhood games and turned it into a very like engaging and thrilling set pieces. But also I think it's kind of like you know, like we're in a world with a lot of income inequality. Capitalism is like something that has, you know, more and more people are starting to kind of see the failures in. And this is a show that really captures like that the desperation that a lot of people are kind of facing and anxiety about the economy today.
Oh, wow.
No, it really brought a big change, and like people even started doing some of the games on social media in real life. Like you'll see videos of people by the train station, like inside the train stations, doing the game. I don't really know what that game is called.
Particularly in the train station though?
Because that's where it happened in the show.
Yeah, but the game in itself is
I don't know. Yo, I don't even know, fam. I have no idea. All the games, or even like, you know, when Thanksgiving happened, everyone was doing that, the sugar thing. The game, I don't even know what it's called, but the one where they're trying to...
Game.
Yeah, the honeycomb game. Like, everyone was abusing that game that weekend. But overall, it was a great show. The first few minutes, I was like, oh, this is trash. But after that, it really started to pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment of the show, too. I think it captures, like, the reality and there's a lot of symbolism and whatnot. I saw something, Fox News, hilariously enough, had a take on Squid Games, and they were comparing it to the killings in New York and Chicago. They were just like, I think it was I didn't know that Fox News had their own like talk shows. Like they obviously have like their, you know, their regular news, but they also have like, I guess, their late night shows. And the host was talking about like, oh, I got to watch Squid Games for the first time, and I watched the first episode. But after the first episode, I didn't need to watch it because all I had to do was go outside and see Squid Games in real life, and in terms of people killing each other. So reaching.
Okay, that's kind of dark.
Yeah.
But would you folks actually like participate in something like this?
Absolutely not.
Nah.
I would die the first 2 seconds. Yeah.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if it was like a bit more money, like a couple $1 billion, like something that.
$1 billion.
Yeah, wasn't it like
$1 million
I don't really know
like,
the trend.
$1 billion.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like I think the conversion it ended up being like something like $40 million American. So like
Not enough money?
Yeah, not enough money, man. Like, yo, I need like if I'm gonna risk my life, yo, my kids gotta be eating, you know? Exactly.
Okay.
I think there were a lot of cool messages in that show because I feel like for all the people participating, it makes sense why they would participate. Their life is kind of screwed anyway, and if they were to continue their lives, they're going to die anyway. So that's why.
No.
Well,
No, all of them were gonna die anyways. A lot of them just had crippling debt.
Like the main character, he was going to die if he continued. He sold his body parts away if he didn't pay off the debt.
Yeah.
And then Sang-woo as well, essentially.
Sung-woo's just gonna go to prison.
Yeah, that's basically your life over.
Basically, they're trying to say is like they either play the game, win all this money, or their life is already going to be trash anyway.
Yeah.
So take the risk is what they literally did. I was not taking that risk. Yeah, it's a no for me still.
But Ali wasn't gonna like his life wasn't gonna.
Spoiler alert.
Bro only had like 3 fingers, yo.
Ali
But, like,
was done so dirty.
Yeah, Ali wasn't gonna like. He just had it in debt. That's all he was. Because the guy he was working for never paid him.
But technically, he would have went to jail if they or died if he got caught. Because remember with the whole finger thing with the boss.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that's an arrest, but like, that's not like a death.
Isn't that why he ran back to his family and said, "Y'all get out of here"?
Okay.
Right?
All right, but like, still.
I think the show teaches perspective. It's hard for us. It's easy for us to take a stance, but we weren't put in the positions that they were in.
It's true.
And I don't know. I feel like if I was in that position, I would definitely just go for it.
But I think the average Canadian is facing debt in like a large amount.
Yes,
100%.
of course.
So like, I get you could put yourself in that situation, putting yourself like through like a game if offered to you, to see if you could win some type of money so you could pay off your debt and kind of make your life a little better.
I mean, yeah, and also I think it kind of, again, back to the symbolism, just the idea of the elites, the rich people seeing people as disposable and treating it as, like comparing the first episode of the main character betting on horses to the way that the rich people were betting on human lives.
Yeah. It was
And that does symbolize too.
It was an entertainment game for them.
It was
Like
just
it was entertaining. Yeah.
And like the fact that actually like put a value on each person's life, like a monetary value.
Which you could say is true in real life, you know?
That show was messed up. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it was actually crazy.
I don't know how I made myself watch it all the way through it because after I seen like mass killing in the first episode, hey yo,
I know.
and I kept like
green light.
You had to watch it to see what happened at the end. That's
they
why I
kept on
finished
dying,
it.
yo. They just kept on dying, and they
No.
just kept on getting like the deaths just got even more sentimental. It's like, damn.
Quick question, what are your thoughts on Sang-woo?
Like in terms of what?
Just like as character, because a lot of people do not like him as a character, call him a snake for what he did to Ali.
I mean, like he's kind of the villain of the show, right? Like, I mean, he did what he had to do.
He did what he had to do.
But I mean, at the end of the day, like he was still a snake. Yeah.
I don't know. My take, little devil's advocate, I just feel like he was just doing what it takes to survive the
Okay,
games.
Snake.
I know, like I mean, yeah, he did what he had to do, but like that doesn't mean that like we can't criticize him for that. I mean, like, but I think like also like it wasn't just him screwing Ali, but like just him killing that girl. At the end.
Oh,
right.
yeah. He's like, I put her out
Outside
of
the
her
game.
misery.
The glassmith is pushing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But his reasoning, even at that final scene, for him killing her, his logic was like he thought that her and the main character would end the game and not get money for everyone. He wanted the money no matter what.
But at the end, he never got the money.
Well, because he lost.
Yeah, he killed himself actually.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, he got beat up anyway. He was about to win.
And then his friend was like,
I'm gonna end the game.
Yeah. And then he was like,
Nah.
and stabbed himself and
Yeah.
died.
You think he's a changed man after that whole experience?
Yeah.
Oh, his hair color changed.
Yeah, his hair color changed. But he didn't go see his daughter.
And to be honest, he won the final bet against the old man because someone actually did help the old man that
The homeless guy outside.
Yeah. And he also took him a year to kind of get back to who he was after again having that conversation with the old man and realizing why they did the games and stuff like that, which was kind of twisted.
Do you think or do you want a sequel?
If there isn't
Nah.
a sequel, I'm writing a letter
There's
to
going to be a season 2. There has to be a season
has
2.
to
I don't want one.
Me neither. Like I think like shows like that is like just
Yeah, it's
perfect
probably gonna get
standalone.
trashed.
And then like like it was a really unique idea, and you don't want to kind of milk it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently South Korean shows are typically like they wrap it up usually, but the Netflix changes that. Like I guess the Netflix checks, they kind of like, nah, you're gonna have a second season. So
I think it's so
hope there is.
successful that they're gonna try to force it, but like apparently
that's
the
good.
dude that created it, the scriptwriter,
Took a
he said he was
long
shopping it for
time.
like 10 years,
Yeah,
right?
took a really long time.
And then to be honest, if I'm shopping something for 10 years, I don't know if I'm thinking about season 2.
When they're giving you that paycheck, trust me, you're gonna start
Netflix
thinking
checks?
about
I don't
season
know.
2.
I don't know.
Even if you have to like wrap it all together real quick and give it to them, season 2's coming. I hope.
And we'll definitely talk about Netflix later on in the show.
Yeah.
But I guess we can talk about some of the themes that we see in the show into everyday real life. And I guess to start off, we could talk a little bit about you representing the NDP and why you chose the NDP party.
So I think that again, like there's a lot of systemic issues in our society that we need to kind of create change. And I think that with the three parties, Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP, the NDP is the one that actually has better ideas to actually tackle those issues. With the conservatives, I think they're kind of they would take our country and our society in the wrong direction and really coalesce more power and wealth for the richer, for the people in our society that already have privilege. I think liberals kind of talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. Like, here you have them like talking a lot about Indigenous issues and whatnot, but they're still taking Indigenous kids to court. So reconciliation is just a word for them and not an actual. They don't actually do anything meaningful to really try to tackle the issues Indigenous kids are facing. So I think with the NDP is that we are more looking out for the people, looking out for the people who are more marginalized in our society and prioritize them when making everyday decisions instead of kind of just meeting with lobbyists behind the scenes and doing what corporations want instead.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the current state of the NDP? Because obviously the NDP was founded in 1961, Tommy Douglas, and it's transitioned to Jack Layton, the late Jack Layton, unfortunately. He was the first NDP leader to be the opposition leader. And now to present day NDP with Jagmeet Singh. What do you think of the NDP party as a whole and their place in Canada?
Yeah, so I mean, it's very hard for the NDP federally, but I do think that you don't necessarily have to be in government to create change. You saw in this pandemic, there was a lot of proposals that were being put up by the Liberal government, but in order to get because it's a minority government, in order to get the NDP support, what Jagmeet said is no, you need to be doing better. This is a pandemic. If you want people to stay home safely, they need to have the support to do that. So for instance, CERB was supposed to be about $1,000. Jagmeet pushed Trudeau to make it to. When it comes to extending employment insurance, when it came to supports for small businesses, there was a lot of substantial changes that the NDP were able to force the Liberals to act on in this pandemic because it was in a minority government.
Does it frustrate you, though, being part of the NDP, that, you probably would have more support in terms of ideology, progressive thinking, but the problem in Canada politics is people are either supporting Liberal or Conservative sometimes because they have to, because they feel like a party like the NDP doesn't have a chance, even though they've been around for a long time?
Yeah, strategic voting is something that we always have to contend with. This is why, we definitely want to push forward for change of how people get elected, pushing for proportional representation. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna blame a voter for trying to make a decision, to strive off something that they would perceive would make the country worse, right?
Mostly identity politics that people play with in terms of when it comes to conservative and liberal stuff. But I mentioned this in the last episode as well, that a lot of our minorities from the Caribbean and immigrants and stuff like that, they tend to lean with the Liberals and the Trudeau government just because Pierre Trudeau brought in a lot of our immigrant family members into this country, and it's kind of they are able to give it a new life just because of what that man's father did. So they kind of have some type of loyalty to that. Yeah, you're battling loyalty, which is kind of tough.
I know, it's tough, and that's the thing. I'm never going to blame a voter for making the choice they're going to make, right? So as in politics, it's our job to communicate our policies, communicate our vision to the voters, and try to convince them to vote for us, right?
So what more do you think the NDP can do to try to get ahead in front of the Liberals, especially trying to get more voters, for example, because we did talk about a lot of people are voting Liberals because they feel like they have to, or they have this idea that NDP is not going to win anyway, so we might as well all vote Liberals instead of Conservatives. So what can the NDP do to try to persuade those people?
For sure. I think but there's no easy answer, and I think what's gonna work in downtown Toronto is gonna be different than what works in Thunder Bay than what's gonna work in Montreal. So there's no one easy answer for this, but I think a lot more groundwork and organization needs to be kind of done to kind of connect to communities and meet them where they're at. As well as I think we need to do a better job differentiating ourselves from the Liberals. I think a lot of people kind of, because we talk about the same stuff, kind of see us kind of same-ish, even though there are substantial differences, especially that get lost in the nuance of how policy gets implemented. So I think we need to do a better job to kind of create the darker contrast between us and the Liberals.
Yeah. Do you think people see nuance though?
Sorry?
Do you think the average person see nuance?
No, because that's the thing. You really only have a couple seconds to grab people's attention, to communicate. And a lot of these policies are very substantial, very hard to just put into a single sentence or single slogan, right? So it's very hard to communicate that nuance, especially in an election cycle when everyone's being bombarded with so many messages.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the reason why the NDP has turned to TikTok, for example, as a
Social
strategy
media,
to
yeah.
implement some of these policies?
Which I have some critiques about. It's like, hey, bro.
I mean, like it's like this.
To the wrong base.
You gotta meet people where they're at. Like you get and I think like with some of his like I'm not really that much of a TikTok guy. I think that's like first generation after me. But I do think that like he has reached millions of people with just very simple, quick, easy videos for him to produce, and that's not taken away from all the other stuff he's doing, like the election ads, news conferences. So like it's just another way to communicate with people, and yeah, there's no shame in that.
I think some of the biggest critiques of the NDP that I personally hear is some of the stuff that they're saying seems too good to be true, and also the big question is how are they going to afford this?
Execute it, yeah.
And how do you answer that?
So a lot of these ideas already are implemented in other countries. These are not like brand new ideas that like we're kind of coming up with. We're looking at best examples across the world and being like, hey, like we can do that here in Canada. In terms of how these get paid for, it's really about kind of like pretty much taxing the rich, right? Like there's, especially in this pandemic, there's been people who've made so much money off the backs of people who are being put onto the streets and facing unemployment. And like they should be some of the people who help pay for the pandemic recovery. So there are big corporations that pay almost nothing in income tax, and the average worker is contributing a lot more to the tax base than some of these wealthy individuals and corporations. So I think there's a lot of unevenness in how taxes are collected in our society, and we can reshape that and help fund the social programs that we're talking about.
The reason why businesses get away with income tax is because they have charities that they put their money into.
So do you think that we should start taxing the rich more?
To be honest, as someone that wants to be rich and don't want to get taxed, it's hard for me to answer that question. If I'm in my futuristically thinking, I was just gonna put my money into charity as well.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of these like systemic issues need to be tackled on a broader base, and like taking trying to it's not just even like charities that are the only loopholes that these corporations do. Like there's a lot of like issues with offshore bank accounts and like hidden money. So like it's not really about like these corporations and wealthy people want to help charities. It's just greed. They want to put more money in their own pocket, and instead of helping contribute to the basic infrastructure that even helped them get to wealthy in the first place.
What do you have to say about businesses that come up with press releases saying that, hey, we see there's a big issue going on in the minority community, and we want to, put X amount of money towards initiatives to help with the community involvement, which they never really explicitly state how they're going to go about it, but they kind of just put something out there, and that's their way of giving back and, appeasing the people that constantly criticize them for not giving back to the community, not, try to bring up initiatives for the inner cities and stuff like that.
I mean, like, I think buying PR is something a lot of times corporations do, but like a lot of times it's not necessarily like the actual intention. The intentions are not like really. That's not really what their intentions are. Yeah. If they really wanted to like tackle systemic issues, they can just start with their boardrooms and their CEOs and their executives. Because if they actually really cared about, let's say, racial equality, then their boardrooms should be looking more like Canada.
Show me your boardrooms.
Another thing is, I think that I think buying PR is just enough, and I say that just enough from outside looking in, because the same way how Canada, the government. Say like, what's that thing, that new holiday that popped out of nowhere? Reconciliation and Truth Day. It's the same thing I said during
Truth and Reconciliation Day.
My fault. My fault.
It's okay.
That's PR. That's the government going like, hey man, we understand your plight. Here's a holiday. We recognize you. And then go back into like continue doing what they're doing. Now the same thing with like, let's say like whatever company, let's say Nike. Or no, NFL for a better example. The whole Colin Kaepernick thing. They're like, they took a couple years to come back to come back out, put the PR press saying that, hey, we hired Jay-Z. We now have a community, involvement trust fund or going into communities. I think PR that is just enough.
You think it's working?
No, what do you mean it's working?
Like it's just that, like you think the people are accepting it?
PR is just enough. It is just enough because once you put out a PR statement saying, "Hey, we're gonna do some work to help the inner city," that's just enough.
I disagree.
It's just enough.
No, it's not.
So why, it's just enough. It's just enough.
It's definitely not.
We just like PR.
Okay, so here's the thing: the way that systemic racism like keeps itself alive is by these piecemeal solutions that are not actually addressing the roots of the problem, right? So like when you have like like the NFL, for example, who's done a lot to like really criticize and like undercut the Black Lives Matters movements, then do these like little things like hire Jay-Z, then like what's happening is that it just takes away. It's like this, like you have a tree that's rotting, right? And then instead of actually like taking the tree out by its roots and actually getting rid of that bad tree so it doesn't pollute the rest of the forest, you're just cutting off the branches, right? And then, but if you do that, you still have the rotten tree, you still have the problem there, right? So like doing these like little PR stunts, you're not actually tackling the systemic issues, and in fact, you're just taking away energy and capacity for people to actually tackle the systemic issues. So you end up doing more harm than good.
Yeah, no, granted, what you're saying is facts.
You're just saying
but
that
the general audience
people are accepting it.
Are accepting it.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the solution then?
Burn the whole system down. Start again.
You know what? Sean.
It's true because we can't really change a system that was literally built on systemic racism. So
exactly. So the thing is that like it's like. I like to think about that the system isn't broken. It was built this way.
100%.
And I think that we need to first acknowledge that. And I think there's going to be a million different ways to make things better when it comes to tackling these systemic issues.
All right. So we got some big issues we need to tackle. All right. First thing first is
affordable housing.
Exactly. People have issues with affordable housing.
The rent is too damn high.
The housing market here in Toronto or in Ontario, Southern Ontario, and the British Columbia, Southern Vancouver to be exact,
it's disgusting.
Are plagued with foreign investors that don't even live in the country. Granted, someone told me that I'm not trying to get at anybody, but like the Chinese, right? They put their money over here because of the country's so communist, right? And they look at foreign investments in terms of property as a way to store their house in. That's why they do stuff like that, which I can understand. You don't want the government getting at your pockets. But if that right there is messing up our economy over here, which making it people who live here, who are trying to establish themselves and buy property and have some type of wealth, generational wealth that they can pass on to their family, more harder. That's why the housing market here is hot and unaffordable for a lot of people because foreign investors are trying to hide their money offshores over here.
So what's the government? Well, obviously.
All right, let's get back to affordable housing. How can we get there? I went on a tangent.
Thank you for educating us, though.
I'm talking facts. How can we establish affordable housing inside a hot market? Because I don't want affordable housing inside Sudbury or Sault Ste. Marie. That is not going to make any sense because majority of the Canadian population live within, I guess, 100 kilometers within the southern border of America. That's where the hot market is.
Okay, so one thing I will say, I think like this whole concept of like foreign ownership of homes is kind of like it's a distraction from like what some of the actual issues are of housing. The problem is that housing is kind of seen as a way to generate wealth rather than a basic human right for people, right? And that's not something that's unfortunately going to change like anytime soon, but like I think like that is what the root cause of the problem is, that people are buying homes to make money instead of buying homes to live in. So I think one thing that the government needs to do is like actually build housing, and not only just housing, affordable housing, right? Because like I think like every party had a housing policy about like building homes, but I think the NDP was the only one who actually talked about affordable housing and like housing that actually is like geared to your income, and something that can actually be able to afford. Because if you build like a million new homes in Toronto and they all run up like $1 million, $2 million, like that's not going to make the problem any better. You're just giving more investment for people to make money off instead of actually putting homes in, putting roofs over people's heads. So yeah, build more housing, build more affordable housing, do a lot of things to help provide spaces and land for municipalities to be able to zone for homes and housing is definitely what's really needed. And like, yeah, I think also just like prioritizing like putting roofs over people's heads instead of developers, and helping developers make even more profits.
Yeah, I feel like affordable housing is a primary thing that we need to look at, but also like jobs go hand in hand, because if people don't have jobs that are paying well, then they're not going to be able to afford homes in general. So I guess with the society that we live in, the job market with minimum wage, what was the NDP's plan for that?
I mean, like minimum wage is more of a provincial policy, but like I mean, we definitely are for better rates of unionization, make it easier to unionize so workers can collectively fight for better wages, better for vacation time, better benefits. Also, like we support a higher minimum wage, obviously. In fact, the Nobel Ontario professor won a Nobel Peace Prize last week, talking about how raising the minimum wage actually creates economic growth, and is not like what the rights would say as of something that will like make jobs harder to get or people lose jobs. So I think definitely like when it comes to employment, like we need to like have a better standard for us, and that's something NDP always continues to fight for.
Do you feel like that? I remember researching this and actually watching videos on this, and I believe back in like the 60s or maybe the 30s, Canada wanted to, had a plan of increasing their population to about 100 million, because around that number, that's when, GDP starts to grow at a significant rate. You're able to do a lot more economic growth in terms of the economic output of the country. Since our country is one of the G20, G7 countries, and we're operating at like significantly decline in terms of population, which is kind of really hurting our GDP and overall economic growth. Do you feel like there should be some type of system in place where we're able to have more of an influx of more immigrants coming to this country, so we're able to get to those higher numbers of populations, so we're able to now, I guess, have like a proper output of economic growth and stuff?
I'm generally I'm generally in favor of more immigration. I mean, I think like Canada, one of the biggest things that's like I really love about this country is the fact that we're so diverse. But just kind of going back to like the jobs thing, I think like a lot of like we need to kind of transform our society, right? And we need to like kind of take preventative measures to kind of really like kind of save the world, especially when it comes to climate change. And like a lot of these issues are not separate; they go hand in hand. So if we transition away from fossil fuel industries into more green energy jobs, we can create a bunch of new jobs for people and increase our economic output, right?
On the topic of affordability, another topic I want to talk about is the concept of UBI, Universal Basic Income, and looking at the NDP's platform, they support this. And
break that down. Universal Basic Income.
So Universal Basic Income, it was something actually I learned because of Andrew Yang in the Democratic U.S. election, and it was something that he pushed. And UBI is a concept that was founded by Thomas Paine, championed by Martin Luther King Jr., and it's the idea that everyone unconditionally gets a basic income for being a citizen of the country. And for me, the idea of that was so interesting to me, because the first question you ask with that is like, how can we afford this, right? The idea of they were proposing $1,000 every month for every American citizen, and people, including me, were like, how are you going to afford that? But it's back to the concepts that you were talking about, taxing the rich, of corporations like Amazon paying 0% in taxes. It's ridiculous,
So I think when it comes to UBI, like I think it's a very interesting idea. One thing we have to be careful though is that people don't use this as a way to kind of destroy the social safety nets that are already there that help like marginalized people. Because like sometimes people are like, oh yeah, let's just give everyone $1,000, but then take away like basic things like employment. Like they want to tackle and cut like employment insurance. They want to cut like welfare systems. Yeah. So like I think like. These like a universal program like UBI is a good idea, but like targeted specific programs to help more marginalized people is something that should not be taken off the table in favor of something like UBI.
Yes.
What about the concept of the concept of capitalism for me is like, if you don't work, you don't eat. When do you feel like if you're providing people with more income where they're I guess not utilizing their self-motivation to get
that
up
is
there.
a common critique of UBI, and I wanted to say that.
Hold on, what country has UBI? That's a G20.
It's funny how you said that. In the United States, hold on.
In a G20 country.
Hold on. In the United States, let me explain.
They started it already?
No, in the United States, in Alaska, they have a similar concept with oil. It's a dividend, and you can look this up, of $2,000. I believe it's $2,000 a month for every Alaskan, and it's basically all the profits that these oil corporations, they make money. It's like, where are we going to do? What are we going to do with all this money? Are we going to just give it to the government where they can f it up again, or are we going to give it directly to the people? And they've done that, and it actually works. $2,000 a month is not going to replace work. That's the biggest critique, because I feel like a lot of people are saying stuff like, I don't want these lazy bums feeding off the money. That's not enough money to survive. It's just to support.
To barely pass by.
Yeah, and also on the systems, I was talking to somebody who, he unfortunately, when he was 15 years old, he was working a dangerous job. He fell down and cracked his head, and it kind of f***ed him for his entire life because he relied heavily on disability checks, which are not enough. And I feel like UBI can help people like him and so many other people who they just need enough to survive. And I think that's what.
What do you need employment?
But also, here's the thing: nobody wants to not work, right?
Yeah.
There are certain people do face certain barriers in their life, in their condition of where they are, that might be preventing them from being able to take on certain other things. But no one should starve. We live in live as a society. We should be a collective to make sure that we don't have anybody not being able to eat, right? So I think if somebody is doesn't want to work, there's probably a systemic reason because of that, and that's what we should be tackling instead of trying to say hey, if you're not going to work, you can go starve on the streets,
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people who don't want to work though.
But I don't think there's anyone that doesn't want to work. There might be conditions preventing them.
You're saying for people who don't have money in general, they're not trying to get up and do. I mean, granted, there are lazy people, 100%. But I'm saying
people who don't.
But that
represents the rest of the people who are trying to, and they can't. They literally work on every single day.
Between don't want and can't.
Yeah, but you're kind of looping them in the same. You're assuming that there are people, a majority.
No, but people who are
that.
saying we don't want to give out free money because they're lazy bums who don't want to get up. That's taking away from the fact that there are so many other people who genuinely can't access all these jobs and don't have enough money for food. Food insecurity should not that shouldn't even be a thing.
And the idea, they've done a lot of research around the concept of UBI. And the thing is, it improves so many people's lives. So people are working their butt off just to pay rent and whatnot, and they can't pursue any other of their extracurricular stuff, which is important because that's the value of life, being able to pursue their hobbies and be mentally happier. And they've done tests. I know Yang did that a few times with some people that he selected, and it's improved their lives. Like, for example, there's a person who's working a 9 to 5 and struggling. Now he has time to perform guitar at a club. You know what I mean? And those opportunities are not given without just a bit of a support. It's not going to replace work. It's going to support.
Or even student loans. For example, so many people are now, working or working minimum wage jobs or whatever, but all the money that they're getting has to go towards the National Student Loan Center. Mm-hmm. And now they're not even able to do little things whether that's go out and socialize, yes, or even move out, find a house, proper food.
Yeah, people are graduating with mortgage-side debts, and that sets them far behind in life. And especially back when our parents were in school, then the amount of price of postgraduate education was ridiculously lower than it was today.
Now they're just teeth. What?
I mean, to be honest, postgraduate education should be free, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that hey, listen, this has become the minimum requirement to really participate in the workforce, just like high school was back in the day. So you shouldn't be creating barriers to preventing people from getting their education.
I mean, I
agree.
All right, granted. University education was always a barrier for a lot of people. Yeah. But getting a bachelor was just enough. Right now,
masters.
Mm-hmm. Now you got to get a diploma on top of the degree that you got already. You got to go get a PhD.
You need more certification.
Yeah, exactly.
Or experience. There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, with a bachelor, you could get a manager at McDonald's then. But
I mean, that pays. If it pays, it pays.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, getting your education, there shouldn't be we shouldn't be creating these barriers to preventing people from getting more educated to better their lives and to better the lives of everybody. Yeah. More educated society is a better society.
You would think that, right? You would think that.
But a lot of people cheat
the system.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of cheating, did you hear the story that like you know
Yeah.
the iOS 15
Yeah,
update where
students are now able to cheat on their phones because like they can copy the notes virtually or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. But
I wish
you know,
I wish I had that.
right, low key.
But why is that? Why is that an issue for them to be able to copy and paste text from a picture?
Because
how's that an
it's
issue?
just cheating. Why is cheating bad?
Well, no, it's actually convenience.
Cheating
But like
is
it's convenience.
I mean, it is, but I'm saying like obviously it goes back to you're not actually learning the material. You're not, functioning. Like you're not learning anything. It's like you want to be a doctor, but you cheat your way throughout medical school because you're copying off of notes and stuff like that.
I wouldn't want
You're not
that
going to be a good doctor.
To be honest, hold on. First off, if you're a doctor and you cheat your way, if you're a lawyer and you cheat your way through like law school,
Yeah, that's
cheating your way
what
through
it
medical
is.
school.
It'll
Hey,
show
bro,
you
I'm gonna
with
be
your
honest with
practice.
you. Whatever you get into, you're gonna get hit with malpractice one day or another.
But that's exactly why cheating is bad.
So, you better just think about what you're cheating in.
I mean, granted.
Yeah, those are the type of skilled labor jobs that you don't want to. You want to know what you're doing. But I say that to say this. It's just students doing that is not like necessarily a bad thing if you're in terms of like copying notes and not necessarily understanding material. But are they really teaching anything that's particularly useful for students nowadays? A lot of students
That's
often
another
say
issue.
That's
that.
another
What's the reason why am I going to school, racking up all this debt, not to learn anything useful to help me out there in the real world?
Oh, granted. That's a fair point.
I mean, yeah, like there's like a lot of problems with the education system, and we
Yeah.
can go on for days about that. But either way, listen, man, if someone wants to call systems to better themselves, allow them,
Do your thing.
do your thing.
Yeah, just don't go to certain hospitals. That's it. And don't hire certain lawyers. That's it.
I mean, a cheating lawyer was someone who can actually call the system. Like that is a quality I want in a lawyer.
Yeah, okay, so you cheat the system, but like, all right, man, I got this serious charge. Are you gonna help me out?
Because you don't remember any of
Yeah.
no.
You know what I mean?
You can't
So-
be cheating your way through those type of things. You actually have to, put in the work. But who knows? What about dental care as well? Dental care is another one.
Yeah, I mean, we say we have a universal healthcare here in Canada, but it's not universal. I mean, we at the NDP we think healthcare should be covered from head to toe, everything from mental health, dental, vision. The cost, the cost of your well-being there shouldn't be a price on that. This is in Squid Games.
Yeah. But do you think the word universal was used as a way to kind of say, no, I want to say this again. We don't have all-encompassing healthcare, but like the fact that they used the word universal, was that just some type of play on words to make it seem like it was something that's going to cover
Like
everyone?
everything?
Yeah, instead of all-encompassing.
Well, I think, first of all, I believe the idea of universal healthcare started by the NDP, Tommy Douglas. And it was just the concept that healthcare should be a human right. And I think that was something that Canada took pride in, even though that was an NDP policy. And they kind of showcased it to the world. But realistically, when you look at all the other healthcare systems, we do fall behind, right?
A lot. And because there's been chronic underfunding of our healthcare system by the federal governments, consecutive Liberals and conservative federal governments. And what's been happening is that the cost of healthcare care keeps going up, but the federal government keeps giving the provinces less and less every year so that creates a gap, and then provinces and hospitals have to kind of make decisions about what kind of care and the levels of staffing that they kind of need to do to make up for the lack of funding.
So that's why I wait 6 hours in the
Exactly.
waiting room to just see a doctor.
Is that the same reason why this whole pandemic has been kicking the medical field's ass?
I mean, I think this is why we've had such severe lockdowns here in Canada, because our healthcare system wasn't kind of up to stuff, or the capacity wasn't necessarily there to handle this
Outbreak?
Yeah, these outbreaks other countries that were able to handle it. So then we had to go into these more severe lockdowns just so the hospital system could keep up.
And is that why they're forcing the vaccines on people, because they're still going to underfund the medical care system?
The vaccine passport issue is a whole nother topic.
No, but not the vaccine passport. I'm just talking more in
Just taking the vaccines
Yeah,
in
taking
general?
the vaccine. If what you're saying now, it kind of correlates to what I'm thinking, the conspiracy theory. I'm just saying they're trying to get more of the overall population to take the vaccine, right? Just so they can continue to underfund the health care system. It's like, hey man, we gave it to you, you good. Take away the money from the hospital because we trying to put it into something else.
I mean, I think okay. So politics is not like House of Cards. It's more like Veep. Like there's not the competency isn't there for like wide-ranging conspiracy stuff like that. Let's just put it that way. I think they just don't want people to get COVID. That's why.
I'm too deep for this.
He's like, you're deeping it too much.
I'm too deep.
It's not that deep. But like, okay, going back to the issue of just like the countries going into debt, I think that's one of the issues as to why governments don't want to obviously do free health, like complete free healthcare or
How's the country
education.
getting into debt?
That's what I really want to know.
How does the country get into debt? How are we in a deficit?
Like who do we owe?
So I think like you other countries, other lenders, like banks, like monetary policy is a very complex thing, and I'm going to be honest, that's something I have my full head around. But I think when it comes down to it, like a lot of the kind of deficits and debts like Canada's running, it really comes because of the lack of revenue coming in, and especially when it comes to like the wealthy people in our society not paying their fair share, right? It's not really about the programs and the money we're spending, but also ultimately with better and more universal healthcare, you will actually save money because you can tackle costs, tackle issues preemptively instead of waiting when it gets to a really bad state and it becomes more expensive to tackle and deal with. In fact, they actually like did this, I think they were trying to do this in Edmonton, but they actually saw it was cheaper to give homeless people, they put people in homes than it was to deal with all the ancillary services that comes around homelessness when it comes to policing, hospitals, ambulances, all that extra stuff that it costs more than it does to just putting somebody in a home.
So then it goes back to, it's not that we can't afford it, it's just that we don't want to.
Exactly.
Okay, good to know.
I wanted to go back to like the main reason why you got into politics in general, and one of your biggest issues is racial inequality. What are your thoughts on just the current state of Canada when it comes to, especially in the light of the recent reconciliation?
Man, we racist, fam. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Obviously. That's an easier way to say it.
You want to get into a deep thing and say, yo, we're racist, fam.
That's an easier way to say it.
Yeah, that's facts. I mean, yeah, like kind of like to talk about like, oh, we're so diverse, blah blah blah. But like, we have a severe like systemic issues, and the problem is that because we like to pretend we're so progressive, it becomes harder to tackle because it's like it's very hidden, you know. And I think like we need to do much better. Like it pisses me off when Trudeau took a knee last summer, but then he's done nothing to really tackle systemic issues.
We're taking a knee for you to stand up and go into office to do something.
Who are you protesting? Who are you protesting?
No fact.
You protesting yourself?
No, that cheers me too. That cheers me too. I'm not gonna lie.
PR is just enough for you people, bro. I'm just saying, man, just do a little.
Who's you people?
I'm saying. So what? He did something last year, and nobody checked him about it. Man took a full knee like
people
this.
Did check him. It's just a matter of like,
what if
what
he started
more
wearing
can we
kente
do?
cloth? Huh? What would you guys say? Huh?
I definitely would have been like, what the hell?
He would have came here with kente cloth.
You thought we were gonna say, hey, my brother, like.
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
Man, if Trudeau came in with kente cloth,
people would come for him.
Hey, let's check this out. If Trudeau came
got
in
away
with
with
kente
blackface,
cloth,
man.
If Trudeau came in with kente cloth, man's be like, yo, like he's for the people. Oh, you don't.
I don't know, man. Like, yo, like,
Don't believe me.
I mean, there will be some people who will, some people.
Wait,
don't
hold on.
believe
Didn't Trudeau do that in the Indian dances? Remember that? Like he was like wearing like traditional Indian clothing, and he was going
Like
to
a sari, or
yeah,
not a sari,
and he was doing some
stickers.
dances, and it went viral.
My people from
I didn't see
from
that.
Punjab is gonna like that. They're gonna like that.
but like, see, again, this also says like what the difference is between the NDP and the Liberals. The Liberals just like to play dress up, but like the NDP will actually want to tackle the real issues, you know?
Well.
I mean, he did blackface too. How did he get away with that?
Yo, bro, it wasn't just blackface. Man was committed. He was like, he got the ink behind his ears, like, you know.
Nothing sticks to this guy. This guy is like, nothing can stick to Trudeau, man.
But do you think even, obviously we live in Canada and like all of our previous prime ministers were white men. Do you think?
And one white woman.
There's,
Campbell.
Okay, for like 2 seconds.
She wasn't even elected.
Yeah, like for 2 seconds. I do remember that. You're right.
Yeah.
My fault, sis. But
Put respect on her name.
yeah. For 2 seconds. But okay, white people, period. Do you think there can ever be a time where a person of color could be elected? Because there's a lot of underlying systemic racism.
Like, do you think there's ever going to be a time where a man like Jagmeet Singh will be at the helm of the Canadian politics?
Especially because obviously we live in a country where it's very, very racist, despite all what we show and whatever. So is it possible?
I mean, I like to think one day. I think one big problem is Quebec. Like, I'm gonna be totally honest. I think for them, they somehow confuse their national identity and racism as as the same thing. So I think like that's an issue that needs to be tackled and handled in some sort of way. And I think that's for us, like, honestly, like we like to think we're such a diverse country, but you leave like 1 hour outside the GTA and you walk to Tim Hortons, they're looking at you like a zoo animal.
No, facts. So it's like I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna happen soon. At least I'll say that.
Yeah, I saw a statistic during the election that they were talking about, like, they did a graph on like the people they trust in leaders, and even despite all the scandals that Trudeau had,
They trust him more?
Jagmeet Singh was more less trustworthy technically by some people than Justin Trudeau.
Because
Which
if
is-
Jagmeet was white,
Yeah.
there would be a whole different outlook.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit more.
Really? Well, regardless,
I don't know,
I
some
still
people-
think if he was white, there'd be a different
I mean,
outlook.
like white privilege exists in our society, right?
That's true.
And some people are not going to look at a guy with a turban, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
be like, that's the leader of Canada.
It's because you know what? What's that thing? That saying for the white people? The WASP. They're white, Anglo-Saxon, and whatever Protestant, right?
Oh.
That,
You come over here, you gotta look like that, and that's how you. Not to say look like that, but that's what it's kind of like. This land
That's
was
what it
built
takes.
on. You know, the WASP.
I mean, yeah, like I said, the system it's not broken. It was built this way.
Yeah.
I have actually a quick question, actually. One of the scary things that the progressives see in potential is the rise of alt-right movements across the world. It's very prominent in the United States, obviously. Do you think an alt-right movement could ever exist in Canada? Do you see that?
I mean, it's called the People Party of Canada.
And and do you think that they
Yes, Apollo?
Yeah, the representative.
Was there something you like to add?
Yeah,
Your
go-
face just kind of went, ooh.
Hey man, they were fighting for rights, man. I'm just saying.
For whose rights?
Yeah, please.
Canadian
Elaborate.
citizens' rights.
Shut the hell up. Shut up.
What kind of Canadian citizens, though?
To be honest.
Be honest.
All those pictures, there's a whole lot of white caucasity going on, but I believe they were standing for all Canadian rights in terms of,
Fight the power?
Where'd you get that? Are you putting words in my mouth? That's what I'm saying. They're just fighting for Canadian rights. You know, they wanted to uphold certain,
No, you just didn't want to take the vaccine, so you said there. Am I wrong?
She said that I didn't want to take the vaccine. I never said that.
Anyways.
Don't they have anti-immigration views too, the People's Party in Canada? And you support that?
No,
Do I support the
he's
People's
for
Party of
immigration, right?
To be honest, I'm in the middle like most people. I have conservative values and a little progressive values, but I wanna be rich one day. I believe in capitalism, but I also know that there's certain things that's going on in the world that you gotta let.
You also want to help people, right?
Did I say that?
He definitely don't.
Did I say that?
No,
Well, no. Like, truth be told, let's go on to the next topic.
I was trying to hand you like a floaty or something because you're driving.
So I see that we ran through a list of topics, and I believe that we had a good discussion over here. But let's end things off on this note. Jeff, take it away.
Well, I guess the last topic we have is about the Dave Chapelle Special.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys watched it, but obviously it's caused some issues in mainstream, specifically the LGBT community. And I guess the conversation about censorship and comedy, what are your takes on that?
I mean, like, who's being censored? Like, I mean, the special was like the most watched comedy special on Netflix. Like, I mean, no one's canceled, right? So I think that like a lot of times, like, people are outraged about being outraged.
Like they're picking and choosing who to be outraged to.
No, I think it's like people are just, like, angry about the idea of being angry, if that makes sense. So, like, I mean, like, Dave Chappelle's never gonna be like lose money. He's never gonna like have shows like not go like be sold out. Like he's always gonna have special people jumping hand over fist to hand him contracts for specials. So like this whole idea of like cancel culture is like who's actually being canceled, because it's like no one is, right?
No one.
Yeah, cancel
They're
culture
being,
can be
scolded.
toxic.
I want to be
scolded.
I want to be careful in terms of how I express this, but I guess like some of the critiques that people have of the left is the idea that they're very like they're basically pussies. That's what they've, in the sense.
Say it with your chest, Jeff.
No, listen.
Say it with your chest, Jeff.
I want to be careful about how I say this, but
I'm trying to think of a better word.
Pussies, man.
No,
Crazy.
You did.
That's
You just called them. I just
that's
heard
what
you.
they're saying, in the sense that this is a perfect example of them crying over the words of Dave Chapelle, who is a comedian, versus focusing on some of the bigger issues let's stick with the LGBT community, within the LGBTQ community. And I feel like an outcry of them complaining about something like this with Netflix makes other people less sympathetic of the cause of the LGBT community.
Yo, I'm gonna be honest. I see more people out crying over the outcry than the actual outcry. If that makes sense.
my head is spinning.
Wait, hold on, what?
Outcryception.
I see more outcry
Someone will
about
scratch the head.
there being outcry rather than is actual outcry. You know.
I think the biggest headline is the idea that somebody was fired, an employee from Netflix who was trying to speak out against that, and I guess that caused a stir within the LGBTQ, saying that
why was he fired?
Netflix is supposedly, they've talked about how they supported the LGBTQ community, and then they do something like this. That's their take, you know, and it's just. I don't know. What do you think? Like, do you think that like that kind of
So two things. Like, I think that people are always going to watch Dave Chapelle, right? But at the same time, I think like there are some people who had concerns about the fact that like he was kind of pitting black people against queer people, right, or LGBTQ community. But like, hey, listen, there are black trans people, right?
Yeah.
It's not like two conflicting identities. So I just think that this is an issue that like has a lot of nuance in it, that like maybe like a comedy show is not the best place to kind of learn or like have discussions like this. And I think like people were kind of expressing like, hey, like there are black trans people that get killed almost every single day because of transphobia in America, and like a lot of times they just like are expressing that there's actual harm that comes from stuff like this, right?
so
I don't think people see nuance, though.
Sorry?
I don't think people see nuance.
Yeah, they don't, and that's the
They just see
problem.
binary
Yeah.
thing. It's like, hey, man, either you on this side
Or on that
or you
side.
on that side.
And plus, we all know comedy to be some sort of not dark humor, but like it always comes from something within pop culture. So like it's like, now are we expecting comedians to stop saying all these different things? Like is Kevin Hart gonna automatically stop talking about black women in a certain limelight, or like, you know, making all these different jokes? Because all these comedians, I don't know all the comedians, but most of the comedians that we know and listen to and laugh at say jokes that are, you know, either racist or whatever the case is.
Yeah, but like, I mean, but no one's canceling them. No one's stopping them from saying it. Like, they're still
We're
saying
laughing.
it. We're laughing. We're
Yeah.
laughing at it too.
Yeah.
But like, I just think that sometimes like when people have concerns, they also have the same right to be able to express their
It's true,
concerns.
it's true,
right?
yeah.
And sometimes comedians can capture reality better than even politicians.
Yeah.
Like some of the best comedians. I mean, even Trevor Noah, he has
Love
his own
him,
show,
yeah.
right? And I think that people are actually finding more realness in the conversations that comedians are starting than politicians and journalists.
So are we saying that comedians need to start being more careful? Because obviously we live in a society now where a lot of people are more nitpicking what people do and say on social media
Well,
platforms.
that's what I'm trying to say, the sensitivity. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the reputation that people have of the left now because of those people. And it distracts from the real issues that I guess progressives are trying to focus on in tackling real issues.
I just think people just need to get off Twitter and just go live in the real world. Like, I think, well,
I
like,
think the
and
real
also
world-
like the social media the job of social media is to kind of take extremes and amplify it to create, to get you engaged in the platforms. And
it's working.
And it's working. And it's not creating healthy conversations. And it's just causing further radicalization of people. But like, yeah, again, like no one's stopping anyone from saying anything.
I do think that overall, what's that concept? Is it the people that influence the institution, or is it institution that influences the people? Either or. What we're seeing that's transpiring on the internet and social media is now taking place in the classrooms and now affecting the young people and being taught certain things of emotional intelligence rather than focusing on like academics and stuff in the schoolroom. And that transpires into a whole society of what just called pussies.
I mean, I would disagree with that. I think people learning about like issues of like equity and like being basic, better human beings is gonna maybe make this world a little bit of a better place.
It's true. It opens up our eyes more, especially because like going to university, there are so many different things that I never learned about. Intersectionality was a big one, right? So learning about those things are very important. It just goes down to what are we actually taking in, and what are like we get to pick and choose most of the information that
How
we
hard
believe
is it
in social media.
not to be a dickhead?
You tell me.
Very hard for a lot of people.
Like, how hard is it? You wake up and like, yo, bro, I just want to be an asshole today. Like,
Yeah. Well, when the system was built on bad things.
oh, maybe because of this color of my skin, I'm supposed to be more polite to other people.
Yikes. Sorry, mate. But
And I identify as white then.
a lot of people have
If
started
only-
saying that, you
if only it
know.
was that easy. If only it was that easy.
Or maybe color neutral. I'll start off with that.
Colored neutral. That's a new one. What do you identify as? I identify as colored neutral.
Color neutral.
Talk to me nice.
You can't see me. I'm an invisible minority.
Who let this guy have
All
a
right,
mic?
so
Anyways.
Yes.
all right.
Yeah, but
This one we gotta
this
go
was an
home.
amazing discussion, though.
Thank you for coming on, though.
Oh,
We
thank
really
you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Really appreciate you coming in. The panel loves you, and yeah. So to catch more about Guled.
Guled. Yes.
Guled.
That's my name.
Just the fact that everyone went quiet, it's like, I fucked up the man's name. Yo.
Just wanted to be sure.
So where can people find you?
Yes.
Just at Guled Arale is my social for a lot of things. And if you continue, you can always just continue watching me do amazing things for Scarborough.
Yes.
Scarborough's my home, and I'm gonna do everything I can to help you make it a better place.
As you should.
Pra, pra.
All right, Aaron. That was our special guest, Guled. And make sure you tune in next week for another episode of The Echo with your host, Apollo P.
Kadiatu.
And Jeffrey.
And make sure you follow up with Guled and everything he does politically and what he's doing inside the community. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. All right? We'll be back next time.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.
Take care.